Hey, Kristen, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to come. After meeting you, my first night ever going to Shack in the Back, grand opening, we run into each other in the middle of all the mayhem and ended up having a really amazing conversation.
Yes, it was so fun. I love when that happens because it doesn't happen often, especially in a setting like that, and especially other women. And there's just so much going on. The music was so loud, but we were hell bent.
We really were, and we even traveled and continued. We would stop and have our conversation in the middle of all that noise and just talking about so many things that were relevant and powerful, but not really like small talk in a bar setting.
Yes.
So it was really powerful. And, when we kept talking and it was so much about, our experience as women in the oil field in West Texas and working in the industry and the things that we're exposed to, but the choices that we've made over the years in our lives, it was like we were just really connecting, and it was refreshing to be able to talk about some of that and realize, like we're all connected and we're all having to make choices every day about how we present ourselves and how we want to come across to people in the workplace, in our personal relationships, and in a setting like the Shack in the Back, the 2 overlap quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think about all the time that I've spent here in West Texas, and I got here when I was a young 20 something, barely starting a career. I had a young daughter, and I think about the woman that I was at that point in my life, all of the things that I thought I knew that I didn't know, and all of the adventure that was coming. And with life, it's the journey, right? It's always the journey, no matter what you choose to do with your time. There's a beginning and then the middle. I think that's been quoted so many times. The middle is what counts. There's never a real final destination. You kind of just show up for it. You decide what you want to be a part of, you decide what matters to you, and you focus your priorities. Um, and yeah, a mentor, somebody that became a mentor to us when we were first here in West Texas, said at one point in time, "Get ready for the ride of a lifetime, a roller coaster." And I kind of thought, looking at him and his cowboy hat and his kind of true grit voice and, just taking it all in. And I'm like, what is he talking about? We're just here to work. And he could never know at this point how
Right?
how
Like, that's
right it was.
resonated,
It
and you've
just
remembered that.
absolutely. I think about that often because it has been. It's been a wild experience. It's been a purposeful experience. And overall, even through the hardships and through the hard days, it's been worthwhile. It's been a good life so far.
Yeah, you're still in the middle, and that's the thing because we don't know when the end of the journey is coming. We know it's out there, but making that good use of your time and like you said, being purposeful. And I've found that, when I was younger, I felt like it was all about learning who I was. And now it's some of it is about unlearning who you're not.
Yeah.
And that's when you start separating yourself and you have to make choices to where if you go with the flow, if you stay with the crowd, you can get swept away
Yeah.
because there are influences that aren't aligned with who you are, with your values, with where you're at in your life, and you have to be strong in who you are and your convictions and stay true to your path. And being able to decide for yourself who you are now and what kind of person you are, what kind of woman you are, and being grounded in who you are and feeling comfortable in that.
Absolutely. And I think just giving ourselves grace because I could have never guessed how much I would change over the almost 20 years that I've been here as a woman, as an employee, as just what your goals are in your 20s versus what my goals are now. It's not something that you can write down and just go right to that. It's an evolution. It's a sanctification almost.
Mhm.
It's a full blown human experience, and
Yeah.
I don't think it matters, what you choose to do, whether you're in education or the medical field or you choose oil and gas in West Texas. Um, it's gonna be an experience and a journey, and I'm grateful. I find value in all of it. I think back on 20-something-year-old me who is so unsure and so uncertain and so, insecure in a lot of ways because you just don't know what the world has for you in your 20s.
Mhm.
A lot of the time, I think most 20-somethings would say that. I know I would.
Mhm.
And then, to think back in my 30s and some of the hardships that life had for me, and to see where I went, mentally, where I went in my career, what opportunities were afforded to me, um, I would just say decide what matters to you. Really drill down into the depths of yourself and decide what is most valuable to you and run for it. Be a great employee no matter what you're doing. Um, really give a lot of intention and effort. It's worth it. It's valuable. Even and especially on the hard days. Sometimes I look up and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why does this matter? What if I would have done something different? What if I would have taken a different path? And all I can think of is you didn't and you're here.
Mm.
So now give your best.
Yeah.
And, the same if you're a mom, the same if you're a wife, the same, with any of your goals. When you go to the gym, don't half-ass it. As a woman, stand up, be a strong can we say cuss words on this?
You're good.
Be a strong bitch and take care of business.
Yeah.
And you have the power to do that. And that is so encouraging to me. When I look in the mirror every morning, I'm like, you don't even know what you could do today.
Right.
You don't even know the influence that you have. Don't allow the room to influence you. You go in there and you influence the room.
I think it's really refreshing to hear that, especially from a strong female, because as women, I feel like we're always pinned against each other anyway. There's always a competition, and a lot of that it's our own insecurities
Yeah.
that if you don't know who you are, you're already going to be threatened by someone else.
Yeah.
Especially if they seem like they've got it figured out or they've got something on the surface that looks like they've got it all. Like we don't know each other's journeys. We don't know where anybody is at. And it doesn't matter because everybody's in a different season of their life. And so to be able to show up as yourself, you're showing up as yourself if you're not threatened by someone else that's showing up as their true self. And I
Absolutely.
think that we can do a lot more together and just being interdependent. It being very respectful of each other as women, especially in the workplace, especially in the different seasons. Like it's like we're always racing a clock. We're aging every day. And I mean, we're in our 20s and 30s and 40s and it's like you're aging out and it's this constant battle of wanting to stay youthful or to be attractive to a mate. But all of those things are just should be repercussions of decisions that you're making about yourself. You're not doing something to be attractive to someone, you're being true to yourself, and that will be attractive to somebody.
Absolutely.
But we get it backwards, especially in our early 20s when we're influenced by social media and attention from social media. And there's a lot of great things that we can post as in content in our pictures that make us attractive. But when you see girls continuously putting themselves out there and trying to bait in that attention, you're cheapening your own experience because there's always going to be someone willing to put out more. There's always gonna be someone that's gonna post more than you, or they're gonna have their hair's longer than yours, or any of the things that is going to get the attention of especially a man of the opposite sex. And so when you see all of this fast attention, if you're insecure, you think you want that too, or that's the way to do it. So we're moving in a great direction as women, becoming more successful in the workplace and, getting positions that we wouldn't have had 50 or 60 years ago, being moms and wives and, or just being single, being whoever you are. But I think that we need to continue refining our approach with how we put ourselves out there and how we interact with each other, because that's what's setting the standard.
Absolutely. And one thing that comes to mind, I have always said this to my daughter. I have an almost 20-year-old. And I've always said something to her that just made so much sense to me. And it is, you love people where they are on the way to where they're going. And the only way that you're going to truly influence somebody is by being an example. And you can do that in a poor way, um, doing the things and presenting yourself in a way that you know is not of value. Or you can do that in, a respectful, aware, almost an obligation, a responsibility to, I know I'm almost 40. We're almost 40. And we have some hindsight,
Right.
we've been there a little bit, not
Mhm.
as much as, some of my mentors who are a little older and, have had different experiences, but I got something to say. I feel like I do,
Yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
through it,
Mhm.
and if there was a younger woman or even a woman my age and I don't know, I just have the heart to bring perspective and say, "Hey,
You
what
really
about
do.
this?"
You do. And that's where you and I were just, we immediately got into that conversation because we're both so dialed in on it because I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm always wanting to improve. I want to be better. I have goals to reach, and goals are endless.
Yeah,
Relationship goals, financial goals, your fitness goals, like whatever they may be. But I've found that the more comfortable with where you are right now, the easier those goals are to achieve. You don't want to battle yourself internally and beat yourself up to get there, or feel like this place of peace is some external point to reach, because it's not.
yeah,
You have to go within.
yeah.
And you need to start from within before you move forward. Otherwise, you are chasing that external validation.
Absolutely, and I just think back to where we kinda touched on hindsight. Everything is so instant, and we've heard that over and over again. We have social media and we have everything right at our fingertips. My daughter, she's almost 20. She hasn't existed in a world where she didn't have internet. She hasn't existed in a world where she couldn't pick up her phone and text. And she likes to joke with us because she can't even imagine a time where I remember when I was just starting my career and it was rude to text people. "Why didn't you call?" She's like,
Right.
"What?"
Right. And now it's
The
the
etiquette
opposite.
is
Yeah.
it's so wildly different,
It
and
is.
I just think about all of that time, and, I think about how many things in my life, had I known back then, are not instant. And they're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to go right in something.
Mhm.
Let me say that again. You're not supposed to go right in something and know how to do it and how to deal with it and how to be a part of it. Life and the experience of life is letting yourself go through it
Right.
and experiencing it. And, you know, these are long-term things. These are things that you don't get yesterday. These are
Right.
things that anything of value is going to be time consuming. It's going to be um, worth effort, and effort takes time. So, all of this instant, fast paced world that we're living in, it's just a lot of the time it's not realistic.
It's not, and a lot of people, like, you'll see someone's weight loss pictures, the before and after. What people want is that. They want that experience that happened on the same day, and it didn't. People that post a picture like that, it's 6 months, 7 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
But what we don't want is the process. You don't want the unfolding, you don't want the periods of discomfort, the dedication, the consistency, but that is why we're always chasing the dopamine. And it's like, where's the next thrill? Where's the next rush? Where's the next light coming from? But it's a double-edged sword because we can put ourselves out there on social media with value and we put ourselves out there and we're getting this interaction from a following and we're influencing and we're doing it in the right way. But if you put yourself out there in the wrong way, these are repercussions that can live with you. They're ongoing because once you've established this is who I am, that's how people see you. And that's the value that they think that you're offering. And so when you cheapen yourself and you continuously put enticing pictures in a workplace setting, and they get more and more scandalous, it seems like as time goes on. Yes, you're getting the attention. One, are you actually getting the business? And two, are you really that valuable in what you're providing? Or is it in the enticement?
Absolutely. And, you know, um, to touch on that, what do they say? The internet is forever. This day and age, the internet is forever. And who you are in your early 20s or your early 30s, or however you represent yourself at any point in your life, is going to be something that follows you. It
Mhm.
just is. And I think we have to be mindful of that. And in the moment, it's hard, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe you're having fun, or maybe you're just being young and free, and you don't think about it that way. But I would just encourage women, especially women in this area and women in the oil and gas industry, be self-aware. Be so full of respect for yourself. Um, Demand that from others. Teach people how you want to be treated.
That's right.
It's so important. You don't know what you're going to want or who you're going to be in 10 years. So
Mhm.
today, make a choice that honors the woman that you'll be in 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that we're encouraged enough in that way from other females. It's such a battleground just to be a woman, and whether you're in an industry or you're young and you're trying to figure out who you are, there's so many temptations to get there quicker. And I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in the journey of discovering who you really are that a lot of us don't even know where to start. And you don't want to give up the dopamine of the attention you're getting right now to do that deep work, because deep work can be very taxing and isolating. But you have to go through a season of learning yourself to be able to really know, what does that mean to command respect? What does that mean teach people how to treat you? If you don't know yourself, which I've had seasons of my life where I did not know myself, and I'm very grateful that we did not have social media when I was in high school, because the internet is forever, and I'm glad that none of that was ever documented.
Me too.
And so it's a thing because no one really thinks about the repercussions of social media and the decisions that you make, because we are in a very reactive culture. You get on your phone and you get taken away by that current, whatever it may be. But in the oil and gas industry, it's we our personal relationships and business relationships overlap quite a bit, especially in, the fun networking settings that we have. And a lot of these business relationships do turn into personal relationships. But as a woman, you do have to be more self-aware. You do have to make sure that you have some of those boundaries in place. And I mean, nobody's going to be perfect. You've got to figure it out, but you have to know when to not answer the messages that come in after hours. You have to know how to communicate and some of the signs to watch for. Don't get yourself in a bind if you don't have to. And I think that you may lose some of that short-term satisfaction, but you're going to gain the long-term respect, and you're going to get better business in the long run. But we all have to decide to come up. Otherwise, it's expected. The way we have to teach others how to treat us, how we communicate in our business setting is extremely important at this junction.
Absolutely. Um, Gosh, you made so many great points. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to touch on. Um, I would just encourage women to do life together. You had kind of talked about how it's competitive and there's so much insecurity, and out in what is still very much a man's world in the oil and gas industry. Um, Women do have to sort of fit into a groove that is still being defined, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's not easy to do. It's not easy for an old school mentality. It's not easy for a new generation coming in with new skills and new culture. It's just sort of this melting pot of
Mhm.
how do we do this?
Yeah,
And I think that more and more, it's just so important to value each other as women, to look at that person first, and instead of feeling, um, what word am I looking for? Instead of feeling your insecurities bubble to the surface, or instead of feeling inadequate in some way, look at that woman and praise her for who she is before you ever start talking to her. Listen for just a second. We don't listen to each other's stories enough because if we did, it would change everything. I'm
mhm.
convinced. If we heard over some loud drums 5 minutes of somebody's story, it would change your heart so wildly that you would want nothing more than to know a little bit more about that person,
Mhm.
that woman, what she's done, why she here, why at this moment, did your paths cross? Who destined that?
Right.
And if you look at it with an excited, anticipatory heart, then you gotta know more. And all of that ugly stuff, all of that stuff that you've just been inundated with, like, this is the way it is. I've gotta compete. I've gotta win. I've gotta be the alpha. It just doesn't matter anymore. If we can approach each other with a soft heart and out of love and out of curiosity for that woman, I mean, imagine what we could create. It would be so powerful.
Extremely powerful because I think that what we all have to offer is if we brought it all to the table and worked together, I mean there are amazing things that could happen, but there's always that social stigma or that immediate response of feeling threatened or triggered or you might have a couple of female friends, but you don't see a lot of women that come together. And I think that it's more common now and there's a lot of women that are trying to uh, cultivate that. I mean, there is a lot of fellowship. There's a lot of community in the oil field, but there's still it's not for everyone. Not every woman would feel comfortable going to certain events. Like you got to find your tribe, so to speak. You need to know who you connect with because we're all different and we're just different individuals. But I agree with you that if we approach it with just the excitement of I'm meeting someone instead of feeling closed off and threatened and I think some of it is it's our society and it's a little bit of our culture out here is the culture of oil and gas is it's boom or bust, fight or flight, here today, gone tomorrow. And so a lot of that cheap dopamine is also that is from well, you got to get the work because it's going to be gone. And so you're trying to put whatever you have out there to get your sale or to get your business or whatever it is you're going after. And so we have that mentality out here that all of this is going to end soon. And so I think that if we have more of a proactive approach to the way we do business, a lot of that falls away too. Because we're not competing for that same dollar. We're not competing for the same attention in the LinkedIn feed of, trying to get someone to notice what you're doing or to buy from you instead of from her, that it's, you know what, everybody has something unique to offer. You're going to have your customers, you're going to have great relationships with them, but you're going to do that from a respectful place and being comfortable in who you are. And then you can offer that to someone else. And if we all do that, then, like you said, a lot of that ugly stuff just falls away.
Yeah, absolutely. And really anything that is ever not motivated, I think in a genuine light at the end of the day it's not going to be honored. It may be thrilling for a time. You may think that you have, some sort of advantage, but again, as somebody who's been out here and has seen plenty for almost 20 years. I would just say that I think a lot of that is first of all, it's just not true. How many years, how many decades have people been out here working and grinding and doing the same things that we do day in and day out? I know the temptation to be on top. I do. Um, but I just encourage you to slow down and take a deep breath and ask yourself what your focus is, what your priority is. Ask yourself if how you're treating people in your pursuit of this, your career, your next sale, your next, whatever it is that you're reaching for, and really try to determine if it's really of that much value in the long run, in the long term.
Because you read those stories, like, not just women, but we'll see, for the sake of the conversation, women that, they tried to climb the corporate ladder forever and they finally got to a rung where they realize it doesn't stop. The pressure of having to stay ahead, or the the temptations, or the experiences that you can get put in. And a lot of them will say it's just not worth it because, at the end of the day, you wanna be happy. You wanna be happy being in your home and in your life, and not feeling, stressed about, because there are things that you can be exposed to as a female in the workplace that are so out of your control,
Yeah.
and having to juggle that, it is not fair, and it's not ethical. There's a lot of things that can happen where you're trying to say the right thing because you don't wanna offend somebody, but what's being said to you wasn't appropriate in the first place.
Yeah.
But your job can be so fragile depending on who this individual is, that you've lived with this internal stress. And I think a lot of us have experienced things like that out here, and I mean, me personally, I have worked for some of the worst, and now I work with some of the best. And so I think that it's very valuable to me that I went through those experiences. So the hindsight makes it worth it. The nights that I lost sleep, or that I wouldn't wanna go to work the next day, all of that was worth it, because now I feel like shining the light on the path and saying, "Don't work for those people. Don't do business with them." There are plenty of really incredible men in this industry that are respectful, that are awesome, and, I mean, better than I could have ever imagined. But that hindsight and wisdom comes from knowing the exact opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything everything has value. It really does. From the hardship that you really don't think you'll ever be able to see the value in. Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to go through this? To what you would define as a mountaintop. Man, I've arrived. Man, I'm here and I feel it. But it's all relative, isn't it? Because your mountaintop is not someone else's mountaintop.
Right.
And that's why I think we've touched so many times on really doing the inner work, really getting to know yourself as a woman, really getting and becoming self aware. It's so important. And I think the sooner that you can do it in life, um, the more valuable it will be in your life.
Mm,
And to kind of go back to what you were saying, the only thing constant is change
absolutely.
in Texas.
Y Yeah,
That is so real. And just don't hold too tightly to really anything.
right.
Just don't do it and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that for me, what I have found is once you know who you are, you're fine with the evolution of change. I think that when you're unsteady in yourself, that change can be scary.
Yeah.
Because you already don't know who you are, and then something is about to change. And, like, that's why people don't want change, is they're not grounded in who they are, because the evolution of life, the seasons that you go in, whether it's aging, it's tragedy, it's moving, it's, I mean, all the things that really make those big impacts on who you are. If you're confident in yourself, you can weather the storms. You can walk through the dark and be fine with it. But if you don't know who you are, that darkness is gonna be terrifying, and so then you're battling 2, the
Yeah.
internal world and the external world. That I guarantee from my experience that when you are fine and at peace with your internal world, and it's not ever gonna be perfect, and there's always gonna be something on the to-do list, you're a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time, I'm certain of it, and if there is a peak that you get to where everything just lines up, that's awesome, I'm not there yet, and I am fine with it because I am who I am. But I'm confident in who I am now that if something externally comes my way, whether it's, an unexpected obstacle, obviously that's always happening, or, a situation that I get in where I'm like, hey, this isn't really for me, or, I don't feel like this relationship has value, whether it's personal or professional, because you have to discern. You have to discern with who has integrity and who doesn't, who is blowing smoke and who has something real to offer. There's plenty of real out there, but the smoke and mirrors is a lot easier
Yeah.
to to find yourself in. But the thing with that is you're not really getting anywhere either.
Yeah.
So it can be a comfort zone and it can be a hindrance.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm not sure how I wanna touch on that either. Oh my goodness. See, this is what happens when we get
I
together.
know
We
we
just
just
go
g
deep.
so deep, and then we just stay there. But it's a powerful level to connect on
Yeah.
that does not happen very often, and it's not your, Wednesday night shack in the back conversation, but we had it.
Oh,
And I mean, even, a couple people were noticing that we were just we're still talking. Yeah, we're still
yes, and they
talking
were
about it.
just bothering us, and we were like, "Excuse
It's
me."
like we're over here. We're talking right now, like
Yeah, in
yelling
our
above the
bubble.
music. We're absolutely in our bubble, but I think too it's like, we touched on a few things on life experiences and kind of what shaped the journey, but a lot of where your wisdom and hindsight has come from was your experience and your evolution from when you first came out here and the seasons that were presented to you that you weathered and kind of transformed in.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, I'm constantly amazed by I think that's how I can say that so casually. It's just the only thing constant is change. So show up and see what life has for you. And when you truly can look at it that way, you have such a freedom. You really do. In my early 20s, I was married at 20. I had my daughter when I was 19, and we moved out here with nothing, almost nothing. We both grew up in the Panhandle, just ready to take on the world. We had no idea what direction we were going in. We just knew, hey, let's do this. And we had this little bitty thing with us, and she needed everything from us. I had no idea what type of mother I wanted to be. I had no idea how to be a mom, but I was gonna do it. And I took it day by day, experience by experience. And you know, I think back to that time in my life and everything just felt so uncertain and I felt so out of control. And my personality was to do exactly what we had talked about. I immediately grasped everything I felt that I could control. And I mean, the type of person that I would dig my claws in and it's going to be this way or it's going to be the highway. And I'm sure you can imagine my husband back then, he was like, "You're nuts." He was always more this free spirit. He was always less inhibited than I was. But I just, for whatever reason, there was purpose in that season of my life for me to be that way. And that's why I say, not only do we have to give ourselves grace, we have to give each other grace because you truly never know where somebody's at. You don't. And most times they're not going to stop, right there and just go deep with you. You're not going to know. You have to come at them with compassion and consideration. And this is a daily thing because I know my heart changes every day. Like today, I'm all lighthearted and loving everybody. It's Friday. Me and my fiance, we're headed to that's a story. Me and my we're headed to the Rangers game tomorrow. But Wednesday, oh my gosh, I was just on another level. I mean, it was a rough one. And so you just have to show up every day with that excitement and that anticipation. And really, the people that are in your life from season to season, it's for a purpose. It really is. I think back to those young years and the people that were in our lives. I mentioned way at the beginning of this how someone had said something so remarkable to us that sticks to my soul to this day. I just repeated it in a podcast,
Right.
15 years later.
Yeah.
What if you had the opportunity to be that influential over somebody?
Right.
Wouldn't you want to say things of value? Wouldn't you want to show up with the best self that you can offer that day?
Mhm.
And I say all these things in this lightheartedness, but I'm no stranger to hardship at all. Um, I don't even know where to start this. Um, Besides raising my daughter and building a career, I started working in oil and gas in 2010 exclusively. And I had accepted a position just as a secretary for a mid-sized producer, um, and was so thrilled because the schedule was exactly what I needed to be that kind of mom that I was, ready to be at that point in my life. And it met that immediate need. And had I known how incredibly important that company would be in my life for the next 12 years, I could have never known. Um, I have this big idea, this big goal that I'm gonna write a book someday, and it's gonna be just full of all the juiciness that I won't say out loud right now. And that company deserves um, every recognition from me. That company deserves um, every positive word that I can say because in the years to come, I would lose a husband to alcoholism and they would stand behind me 100%. The superintendent that we had is a dad to me. And I think that this will probably get shared with him, and he knows exactly who he is. And I hope he knows that he means the world to me. Um, there are years in my life that I could not have made it through if I hadn't walked in the office to his face every day. He was an example in every way of a pillar of integrity of a man in the oil and gas industry. He was remarkable in my life and remarkable in the lives of everybody I saw him interact with. And I don't think that he realized how important that is. He's just about to retire now. And I always told him, um, there's so much context that I'm missing here. Sorry, y'all. But the company I was working for, we started a horizontal development in Martin County, and it lasted for 5 years. I like to tell myself that it would never end. I thought we were just going to keep going forever because why not? And one day we sat down, and this man that I adore just said the words, "We're sold." And
Oh,
it
wow.
was this defining moment for me that just there are these moments that you just feel in your bones. And I remember just being like, "No."
Right.
And we didn't we went through all the motions. We were acquired by another company, and the the last day that we were gonna see each other, that, they had spent all this time moving things out, and I'm still in shock. I'm like, "Why are you taking that off the wall?" Like, it's just I was not okay. And, he came in my office and, I'm 5'2" and he's like 6'14". He's a very tall man, and he just wrapped me up and he said, "Thank you for everything, thank you." And there are very few times in my life where I have just sobbed, but I sobbed. It was a real grieving period. It was a real grieving period, and this was, um, actually 2 years ago this month. And
Wow.
I still, for the last 2 years, talking about the seasons that we go through, and trying to figure out who you are and all of it, I still feel that some days I grieve over it and I miss that old life. I miss that old familiarity. Um, but I also see the horizon of what that period of time set me up for and how capable I am because of it, and how my faith is very important to me. And I believe you have these promptings. And he's saying, now it's a new time.
Mhm.
You got to figure out, Kristen, how are you going to run with this? What does this look like to you now? You can't stay stuck in the old. You can't stay in a grieving period. You can't stay mired down in a hardship. You're not gonna go anywhere. Man, I really wanted to though. Oh my gosh. I wanted to. It was so comfortable to stay there and get teary-eyed, but there's so much more to come. And I know it. I'm just not 100 right now, but I will be.
Yeah, I get that because, as much as we've talked about the relationships and workplaces that we can work in that are toxic or we're vulnerable, there have also been those that it's like a second home, and it's a part of you. And so being able to let go of all of it and continue moving forward and keep that hindsight and perspective is very powerful, because you got to be thankful for the teachers. You've got to be thankful for the ones that made it harder on you, because in the end you move forward with the lessons. You've got to choose to take the wisdom, and it's hard to let go of the ones that, like, because a pillar of integrity in the oil and gas industry, there's a couple of those that I know now, but there was also a time where I wondered if that actually existed. Because when you're inundated with survival and people that don't have integrity, you can feel like that's all there is in the world. But in a period of great trial, you had somebody that was that shining light for you, which is so strengthening when you're in your darkest days, like knowing that you have someone like that that you can count on and look to. So for that season to end, that's a whole different kind of grieving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would definitely use the term grieve. Um, but you just, I think, have to, like we've been talking about, you have to come at everything with an expectant heart. You have to come at everything with an open heart. Anything that feels off or ugly or manipulative is not ever going to serve you well in the end.
Right. No.
It's not going to. And you have to approach things with an open heart. I mean, that's as simply as I can say it. And I just want to challenge you. Watch what happens when you do that. See how your world changes.
It is very different.
Look at how your perspective is affected and look at how other people interact with you, because when you approach things with an open heart, even though you've been through some things, even though you're maybe like me, you're not 100 today. I would rather be back there. It was very familiar and very comfortable, but I'm not. And part of grief is that realization that here we go. We've
Yeah.
got something new. Am I going to step into it with the woman that that period of time created and be grateful for it? Thank you that you equipped me for this season. Thank you um, that I was being built when I didn't even know that I was being built. Or am I going to, not progress? Am I going to stay back here? Am I going to be hindered? Am I going to be, and that's a choice. It's all choices. I don't think we talk about the power of choice enough. We always are sort of more inclined to sort of be a victim of circumstance, right?
Very much.
But we have a choice, and that is so empowering. You have a choice to go out into the world with a terrible mindset. You have a choice to go out into the world and not value yourself and, wear something that tells other people that they don't have to value you either, or go out into the world and, not represent yourself in the way that you're worthy of being represented. And all I can say to you is don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. Find a mentor. Find a woman who you can talk to, who you can cry with, who you can ask for advice. Um, Or in my case, there were many days where I sat with this man and he was just so concerned and so compassionate. And I can tell you the reason that he was able to be a pillar of integrity, the reason that he was able to manage people well in his role, the reason that he was able to show love to someone who was going through something so traumatic was for his own love of God and his faith, and in the ways that he was growing and he was pursuing goodness in his life. I would say surround yourself with people that are light. If you feel a light coming from them, go and find out why they
Mhm.
have it. Don't spend your time with people who are so unsure themselves. I think it's very powerful to always be looking for the good, always be looking for the light, always be looking for what that looks like, and then trying yourself to become like that. What does that mean to you? What does that look like in your life? At the end of the day, the competition, the money, the business, all of that is so finite. It's just temporary.
It's very fleeting.
It's very fleeting. It's not to say that you shouldn't care about it or you shouldn't give effort or you should, half it at your job or anything like that, but truly consider what is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, it's the choices that we make when you're surrounded by people, and you don't have to have that many people around you. It's the value of the people. You can find a lot of people gathered together and there's no value in that crowd. You can have one conversation in the middle of all of that mayhem that is so powerful and refreshing that it goes on to, having a lunch and doing a podcast and sharing the life experiences together and giving each other a space to be honest because when you've been put in workplace situations by a superior that has threatened your position in some way, it can be very shameful. You can't go to anyone for help or you feel responsible for it or you can't even begin to think about shining because you're going to work every day surviving. And if you don't work for people that have integrity, a company that doesn't have integrity as a whole, then you are not going to get to shine at that company because they're busy lurking in the shadows and trying to find ways to get out of paying their debts, paying their vendors, slow paying, all of these practices that are not done by companies with integrity. Companies with integrity care about doing good business.
Yes.
They care about being financially responsible, treating their employees like they matter, like they're friends and family, like they're human beings. Companies with no integrity don't treat their employees like that. And it's a totally different experience just in the workplace. And so it's challenging in this human experience that we have. You want to surround yourself with the right people. It sounds so easy. You want to marry the right person, you want the right friends, you want the right business, and you are the company you keep. But to suss out who isn't right for you, where you don't belong, and you might have to let go of a great job because it's not a good company. You might have to walk away from a relationship that was so fun and thrilling because it was extremely toxic and the individual you were with is holding you back. You're keeping them company and they're holding you back from reaching your potential. They're not concerned with your potential. They're concerned with being satisfied in the moment. And when we live for these moments and these cheap thrills, there isn't long-term satisfaction there. Like money in business is fleeting. It is also something that we cultivate every day to live better lives. But you have to be able to keep that balance of integrity and being true to yourself and holding out for better and knowing that, hey, if this group of people is not right for me, you're being redirected. It's very, very true that when you're rejected for something from something, you're redirected to something better. And I have found that at the time I may have been disappointed or didn't understand, but a lot of these dead ends and detours have led me to where I am now.
Yeah,
And I am
yeah.
grateful for that. And there have been some dark and lonely chapters in my life. And so when you see this bright and colorful and excited energy, it comes from a very real place of learning life the hard way, of starting over a million times. And so for me, any young female that I see or I come into contact with, I wanna make it easier for her, and I don't think we have enough of that. It's people wanna hoard their wisdom. I'm like, "Let me save you some time, and you can get there a lot faster than I did. You can save yourself a lot of trouble and heartache. Stop chasing people. Stop going after people that aren't right for you. Don't stay at a job that you know isn't going anywhere, where you're not valued. You cannot work harder to make someone value you. Your hard work and dedication is valued by the people that understand your value. People that don't value you in the first place, you're not ever gonna change their mind."
That's very true. And I know that I've experienced those circumstances multiple times in my life, and I haven't always been strong enough, um, mentally or, you know, in whatever other way to call it. I haven't always been willing to call it because I did have that thought. I had the thought, well, if I am top tier, then this person or this company has no choice but to be top tier. They're gonna have to rise up to meet me here, and I'll be the example. I'll give myself that responsibility, and then, they'll get there. It didn't happen with
No.
my ex-husband. He just didn't see it that way. It didn't right after, this company that I spoke on, was acquired, um, I went ahead and went to work for the company that acquired them, and you know, being honest with yourself about the things in your life that are a good fit and fit for purpose, and the ones that just aren't.
Mhm.
And not being ashamed to call it and
Right.
say, "This doesn't work for me."
Right.
And that company did not work for me.
Well, that's it there's so much power in being able to say, "You know what? I tried this. This is not me. This is not who I am." But there's so much, like, people wanna see failure. They wanna see, like, "Oh, I told you that wasn't gonna work," or, "Oh," like, "You messed up," or "You didn't do it right," or I mean, there's all of this very petty narrative of rooting for others to fail.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
There is this ingrained part of the human experience that loves to see a hero fall.
That is horrible. This life is hard enough. Would you agree?
Oh,
It is
absolutely.
hard enough. We should be cheering each other on 100 miles an hour. Any little thing that happens in somebody's life, we should be championing them. We should be, I mean, just letting them
Encouraging.
know, encouraging.
Yeah.
That is of value. If you have the inclination to think something ugly or say something ugly, or maybe even actually go ahead and do something ugly, you have a lot going on inside that you need to deal with.
And that's what a lot of it is. Like, we are in a place in our culture where we talk about mental health, but I don't think everybody's taking it the final step because healing and resilience and moving forward with your life should be the outcome, not wearing whatever mental issue that you're struggling with as a badge of honor and an excuse for lack of self-improvement, of being stagnant, or just using it as a crutch in life and saying, "Well, I can't do anything else because of this." We can work through a lot, and the trauma and the tragedy that you can endure and survive and grow from, your life is not going to be the same, but you have to be able to face that darkness and move through it to get to the light. But there's so many people that fester in that darkness and that weakness, and that's where that narrative is being controlled, and there's so many people that live like that because you don't understand there's a better way to be, or to do the deep work you've got to remove yourself from a lot of those fun, exciting events, and where you're not doing what's right for you. And it's not to say you can't go out and have fun. Again, you've got to have the balance and make the right choices, but there is something about being successful or putting yourself out there, being confident that people may admire, but they also may not be able to or may not be willing to do the work. And so you get a totally different energy coming at you because they may want what you've got, but they haven't done the work to get it.
Yeah.
And so there's some resentment there. And I mean, I know that after my hard years in the oil field, because I've had some hard years in the oil field and I'm having some good years in the oil field.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, thank you. Because and I will admit, like, I was bitter and I was so resentful of so many different people in the field. Some of them knew it. So I was very vocal about it. And I'm like, what is this? But when I kept digging deeper and God kept bringing me back to West Texas with new opportunity, and I'm like, all right, I'll try this way. And I would try and it would work to a certain point, and then it would, the bottom would fall out or it would end. But these are the seasons that shaped me in knowing like there is good community here. There are great people. There's a lot of power that we create that fuels the world,
Yeah.
but we have to make the choice to find the good in all of this because the Permian Basin is a melting pot. You're going to get all walks of life from all different parts of the globe with different reasons for being here, with different mindsets. And I mean, you've got from the top to the bottom and everything in between. And so to find your truth in all of that and stay on a track and stay true to yourself, you do have to go through the growing pains. And so now I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I'm fine with the hardship. And I know there are people that had other hardships that I've not experienced, I mean, we've all got our oil field story that has brought us to where we are now, and I know that I'm not done. I've got a long way to go to get to where I wanna be, but I'm grateful for where I am, and so, again, just wanting to shine that light on people that maybe they're new to the industry or maybe they're bitter and jaded like I was, like, you can work through that,
Yeah.
and it can be a lot better, and so it's exciting when you meet somebody that you connect with because you're not gonna connect to the crowd anymore, not when you've gone through those kind of life changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And how exciting. I mean, honestly, I really do think it, even on my days where I struggle and I wake up and I'm, kind of just in a space in my head. But how exciting to get to grow in this life and how exciting to get to walk out your front door and not know who you're going to do life with today.
Mhm.
If you approach life like it's wondrous, no matter what you're doing, like, what a fun life.
Right.
What an amazing life full of adventure and curiosity and we're built for relationship. We're made for relationship. And instead of trying to run from it, I hear so many people say, I hate being around people. And, you know, there are days, and I will not be dishonest about that. But that's me. That's me having a problem. That's me struggling with something. And I had to learn how to be honest with myself in that. But the real heart in me is, who am I going to talk to today? And what are they going to have to say? And, you know, the deeper point, why am I doing life with this person? Why was this person thrust into my life? Why was I thrust into that person's life? And you look at it and I mean, how exciting, like you said, a melting pot. Not everybody gets to be a part of that.
Mhm.
We live right here where you might meet somebody from the Dakotas, where you might meet some I did at the concert the other night at the tailgate. They were the greatest couple, they were so fun, and, he said that he gets out of here before summer starts, and we said, "We don't blame you, it's hot as hell," and, we met you can meet somebody from Cuba here working, you can meet I've met people that came all the way from New York. I just think that it is incredible.
It really is. There's a lot of opportunity here to have your own identity and have these global experiences right here in the Permian because people come here from all over the world to work. And you meet these people and you learn their positions and who they work for. And, we're all here relatively for the same reason. But then to get to interact with the unique personalities, I think that that's what we're missing on the surface is that the human experience of all of this is what really connects us.
Yeah, yeah, and to just appreciate that Don't be in such a hurry to make your next dollar. Don't be in such a hurry to go and, you know, stop for just a second. Have some solitude in your life and really just enjoy. Really let yourself experience your day. It's going to be what it is. You're going to be in the field today. You might as well find the silver linings.
Right.
You're going to be in that office today. You might as well find the silver linings. And again, once you start looking at life through that lens, I think things start to change from maybe where you've been. If you've been questioning, we all question. It's a part of that human experience we keep talking about. But I think that when we free ourselves to just exist and to just be a human person who doesn't have all the answers, who doesn't, know how my friend made me laugh the other day. She sent me a thing that said, I don't have another two-factor authentication in me this week. I can't do it. We're just people.
Mhm.
You have to give yourself some grace. And in doing that, go ahead and give somebody else some grace. And then I think you'll feel yourself get lighter.
I think so. There's a lightness in letting go and coming into that season of wisdom. And I think that, some of us resist that because one, you don't know it until you experience it. And two, there's the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And so you're always in the current of what's being presented to you and you don't want to get left behind. And so you jump on, but don't be afraid to hang back
Yeah.
and do what's right for you. And there are going to be some days where you've got it all together and there's going to be other days where the bottom just falls out right from the start, and you got to work with that too.
Yes.
And and that's like, for me, I've found that the evolution of everything I've ever done, being vulnerable, being okay with being new, not doing it right, being able to see where I can improve, but also seeing where I've learned and I've grown and give myself the credit. It's easier to and try and improve yourself than to give you that grace and the credit of everything that you've learned, because that is archived now. This isn't it's not something you think about all the time. It's not at the forefront.
Mhm.
The wisdom is just what you have now to work with. And so remembering to give yourself and others grace and do your best and show up. I mean, it's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
But to do it from a place of self-acceptance, personal respect, and like you said, the wonder of it all
Yeah.
is what's gonna make all the difference.
Yeah. It's very freeing. Highly recommend.
I do too, I agree, and I really appreciate you coming on today, Kristen. It has been amazing talking to you.
Oh, I adore you.